and they come up with this $1 trillion monstrosity, and basically everything that could be wrong with this is wrong. It's not really money. It's a commitment to come up with money. It's like Paulson coming out in '08, right, the Secretary of the Treasury, saying, we will ask Congress for a $750 billion bailout of Wall Street derivatives. That has to be voted on. And you can remember, right, there was a moment when the House of Representatives said no. I think you've got 27 parliaments in the European Union that will have to vote on this. That's going to be chaotic. There may be somebody who says no. There are 16 countries that are in the euro. Not everybody who's in Europe is in the euro, and they will also have a say. The thing that ought to interest us is the International Monetary Fund of this awful Strauss-Kahn that you've just mentioned, the guy who laughs at human misery and genocide, really. They are going to give 30 billion, let's call it 40 billion US dollars to Greece, and they're also supposed to come up with 250 billion euros. Let's call that, what, let's call it 300 billion, 350 billion US dollars. Let's say it comes to 400 billion US dollars in loans from the International Monetary Fund to Greece and to the European Union and to these other countries. Well, remember, the U.S. government represents 17.5% of the IMF, so almost one-fifth of that money. You can say something like 70 billion US dollars is being given by you, the taxpayer, to these countries. But the real culprits are those hedge funds. You can thank the hedge fund hyenas and the zombie banks because these governments are now putting their hands in their pocket, your pocket, to get this money.
Well, that's right. The governments are going to be giving a lot of this money to the very culprits that sold them the derivatives. And when you talk about a 1.5 quadrillion, there's no way to ever pay this off. It's designed as a financial weapon. And we have the big private banks saying, we're now going to establish a Bank of the World. You're going to pay a global VAT financial, not from the banks, but from the people on all financial transactions to them. There's going to be a new UN tax that's in the news today. World Health Organization moving ahead on billions on internet and other taxes. And so boil it down for us. Where is Europe going? Why do we see Brown leaving? Why do we see Merkel in trouble, Sarkozy in trouble, saying no to the carbon tax? How do you see this fleshing out? Because now there's, yesterday they said, we're saved, the trillion saves us. And then now today, I have the headlines, they say, it's not enough. It's still going down. We need more.
Well, yes, in other words, bailouts don't work. I think the two things we ought to start with is bailouts don't work. Austerity doesn't work, right? You cut the budget this year. You think you're going to balance the budget for the next year. Lo and behold, you cut the budget now. Your deficit will be bigger next year because your cuts have destroyed significant parts of the economic activity of society. You've taken government workers and other workers and made them into unemployed or even welfare recipients.
And we see that happening now where California raises taxes but actually cuts services, and the economy implodes even faster. Sure. They know that.
Absolutely. That's everybody has known that since Keynes and even before. It's obvious. The other thing is bailouts don't work, and we see this now. This $1 trillion was able to get the euro up by 2 American pennies, and now it's down to 1 American penny, I think, as I'm looking at the screens here. So this has failed. And if you look at the European banks, the ones that I just mentioned, Deutsche Bank and Barclays and the rest of them, they're going down today. They're down 2, 3, 4, 5%. So it is a failure. Yes, this trillion is not enough. The approach that they should have taken is to say, if you're under attack by hedge funds, ban hedge funds. Now, there was a discussion in the European Parliament yesterday that if you have hedge funds from outside of Europe that want to come in, they have to get a passport. In other words, they have to get a permit to do their speculative dirty work. And that would be a start, except that the process in the European bureaucracy, they say, takes 1 to 2 years. That's hopeless. In 2 years, there won't be any more European Union. There won't be a euro. There won't be a European central bank.
And by the way, you've been saying that forever and saying 2010, 2011. I mean, I just want to be on record, Tarpley, that you've been very accurate. And now they're going from always denying that the EU could collapse or that our country could collapse. They're now admitting that the euro is in serious danger of collapsing. So let's talk about, A, what you think is going to unfold versus what you think they should do. We know they're not going to do what you recommend.
But you don't know that, though. Wait. Here, in terms of defaulting or a debt moratorium, there's no question that they will. They will default. They will stop paying. The only question is when, and will it be orderly, and do they have a strategy for economic recovery? Because I'll tell you, you look at these countries, Greece will default, guaranteed.
And that means, and so will the other nations then, like Italy, Portugal, Spain.
Yes.
What does that mean then? That means monetization. That means devaluation.
It means that they should now say, get ahead of all that and say, look here, Greece, Portugal, Spain, Italy, Ireland, all get a debt moratorium, debt freeze, stop payment. Just do it in an orderly, legal way now. Don't destroy the economy, because now people are complaining on Bloomberg and CNBC. They're saying, yeah, wait a minute, the Greek austerity program is already impacting the European economy in a bad way, because that means fewer orders, fewer jobs, depressed economic conditions, right? Loss of activity. So that stuff doesn't work. Don't even try it. And you might as well include Iceland. You better include Latvia. Then there are some non-Euro European countries, Hungary, Romania, plus some others. Belarus,
let's stop
Ukraine.
there, though. And, of course, Ukraine. What is this going to do politically to Europe? We already see the politicians dropping like flies.
Yeah, but right now, this is the other interesting news over the weekend is, remember, when you go back to Germany in 1930, 1931, 32, you get this question of ungovernability, that the parliamentary system breaks down and can't work. And this is where the U.S. is heading to. But just over the weekend, two big countries have become totally ungovernable. The British are ungovernable now because they have a hung parliament. There is no majority. There's no party that has a clear, absolute majority, 326 members of the House of Commons. Nobody has it. So now you get this very sleazy horse trading, the worst side of parliamentary cretinism coming out among Gordon Brown, who's now on his way out, this Clegg, who was the darling of the media, and then this very sinister oligarch, this guy who's got the whole British aristocratic pedigree, Cameron. So, and everybody knows that what that government is going to do is take the knife to the flesh of the British people and flay them alive in order to pay for the bailouts that Gordon Brown carried out, right? He's the guy who invented the bailout for Northern Rock and for Royal Bank of Scotland and Lloyd's Bank. So Britain is ungovernable. Let's look at Germany. This wretched woman, this stupid Merkel, has lost her majority in the upper house of the German parliament. This goes back to the elections on Sunday in North Rhine-Westphalia. That is used to be the industrial heart of Europe. It used to be, well, it's Cologne, Dusseldorf, Essen, Bochum, these kinds of places. It's the biggest federal state in Germany. Now, the Christian Democrats, so-called, of Merkel, have lost 10% of their votes there. They're probably going to lose the domination of that state. You probably get a social democratic government with the Greens and maybe the Left Party. Anyway, Merkel loses it. So in Germany, you have the upper house of the parliament is called the Federal Council, the Bundesrat. And in this Bundesrat, that's where these states are represented. The fact that North Rhine-Westphalia has now been lost to the Christian Democrats means that Merkel can't get her stuff through, and she's already got a coalition government. So two of the biggest, probably the two most important countries in Europe from various points of view, Britain and Germany, now ungovernable, and I think that's what you have to look at rather than the fates of different politicians. The one person who could act in the crisis is Sarkozy, because thanks to General de Gaulle, the French Fifth Republic Constitution gives the French president the most sweeping emergency powers. He could come out tomorrow and say, I'm banning hedge funds, I'm banning credit default swaps, I'm banning CDOs and other things. And they also ought to get busy on that Tobin tax, right, the sales tax on derivatives, to slow down and throw sand in the gears of these speculators.
Webster, I understand that. Specifically, though, with the decisions they're making, what does this say about the global financial system, and are you revising your forecast for a total global economic collapse? Because even if, all these great policies got put in place, the black hole is already so big I mean, we know the media is lying when they say that the economy's turned around.
Well, you can stop a depression in very short time. There's no reason to live in a depression. Anybody who says that the only thing to do in a depression is let it bottom out, let it crash down, and then you'll have a recovery, that is pure insanity, because that kills, and it's also not necessary, and it's not even true. There's no guarantee that there's some kind of business cycle that will lift you out of this. As a matter of fact, what we have now is this is not a business cycle anymore. This is not a recession. It's a world economic depression, and it's a disintegration. And the disintegration will be the euro, as various countries catastrophically drop out, Greece, or get thrown out. You'll have panic runs on different currencies, right? Some of these non-euro places like Hungary, right? You have a panic run on them, or Poland, and then you'll have a panic run on the euro, and that will break up the European Central Bank.